I have with me here Mr. Hilton. He's the founder of the United Precious Metals Association here in Utah. He holds both a Juris Doctorate and a Master's of Business Administration degrees from Brigham Young University. He also founded the Citizens for Sound Money in 2010 and the Utah Monetary Summit in 2011. And we're going to talk to him a little bit today about the United Precious Metals Association. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to participate with you and your listeners.
Okay. So we're going to go over a little bit about what UPMA is, what you guys do, and maybe go over a few misconceptions that exist for people that have heard of Utah's gold depository. So what is UPMA? What do you do?
Okay, so UPMA technically is a limited cooperative association, an LCA, organized under Utah law. We put it together following the passage of the Utah Legal Tender Act in 2011. So it was 2012 that we actually started the Utah Precious Metals Association, UPMA. And then as other states came on board this last year, we changed the name to the United Precious Metals Association. So that's a little bit of kind of the history there. We do have a website, upma.org, and our purpose, our main objective is to promote the choice in currency so that people can actually make use of every kind of legal tender that exists for U.S. citizens. And there are several. I think that people have the impression that there's really only one option when they go to save or transact, but we actually have at least 4 distinct currencies that are available as legal tender to U.S. citizens whatever state. And so that's really our aim at the UPMA, is to make so that people can pay their bills, pay their mortgage, save for the future in the currency of their choice.
Okay, now you mentioned that there's 3 other currencies. I can only think of the U.S. dollar. How would I use another currency, or what other currency are you referring to?
I am actually referring to what people would perceive as the dollar, but there is let's call it the Federal Reserve note dollar. I'll just call it the paper dollar for short. And then there's the gold dollar, which is a coined medium of exchange that consists of gold. And that has actually a different purchasing power in the marketplace than the paper dollar does.
Right, so you're talking about the $50 golden ounce, 1 ounce Eagle coins. Is that what you're referring to when you say gold dollar?
The Eagle and the Buffalo.
Okay.
And then you have the silver and you have the platinum. And they each have their own characteristics and would be appropriate for certain types of transactions, perhaps more appropriate than other types of legal tender. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just kind of popularize the idea that that you do have choice when it comes to making purchases and saving, and that there are good laws on the books that can be used by citizens for their own economic benefit, but also to actually enhance the monetary system and the economy of the United States as a whole.
Okay.
I truly believe that as people make intelligent choice in how they use currencies, that can have a not only beneficial effect in their own economic lives, but for the country.
Okay. So Texas made big waves recently in announcing that they're going to build a state gold depository where people could pay each other in gold. Now, from what I understand, UPMA is essentially just that. I could pay someone else in gold that has an account, or if I needed to pay them, I could just send them a check and it would be taken out of my Golden account. Is that more or less right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a system. We've got an app that people can use to make those kinds of payments between members in gold dollars. Also, there's an online bill pay system that members are using to just pay a whole variety of different types of invoices and bills that they may be confronted with. But as far as member to member, yeah, absolutely, people can pay each other in gold dollars, and that is a legal tender, and so it's different. Just want to draw a distinction for your listeners here. It's different than something like BitGold or Bitcoin, excuse me, which has actually both of those, which have been determined to be exchanges of property, taxable exchanges of property, essentially barter exchanges. So something like a currency, as I mentioned, like Bitcoin, or there's a whole bunch of like local currencies that are used in different communities. Those would normally be viewed by the IRS as property that's exchanging hands, and so you have to keep track of your tax basis when you acquired that, and then when you dispense with it. Legally, you're supposed to calculate exactly how much of a gain or a loss you realized on the transaction in the currency itself. So the thing that's really important to understand with legal tender is that when you're using legal tender coin, it is specifically authorized by law for payment of debts, taxes, and so forth. And so it's not treated as property, and so it wouldn't fall under the IRS's barter exchange rules that can get really complex. And that's why we focus on legal tender.
Oh, wow. Okay. So for folks that don't know, my understanding is you could deposit, say, 1,000 paper dollars into this account, and it would convert to gold dollars. So maybe like 40-something gold dollars. Now, I think there's a lot of interest in this, but some folks say, well, hey, I can't use gold or silver as money because if I were to do that, I'd be losing on the premiums left and right. Now, if I were to deposit 1,000 Federal Reserve notes or paper dollars today, could I spend that 1,000 tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're purchasing. You don't lose any purchasing power. It goes in at a fixed rate, which is I think you use the word a premium. There's a premium over spot price of gold. So the spot price of gold is essentially the price in the market for a 400-ounce bar of gold. Coins always trade at a premium to that because they're broken into smaller pieces and stamped and so forth. But the one thing that is very unique, I'm not aware of any other service like this being offered, is at the UPMA we have no buy-sell spread. So if someone comes into the system with their $1,000, it gets converted at the daily rate to the appropriate number of gold dollars. If they were to turn around and spend all of those gold dollars, so now they're going back kind of out of the system, they're liquidating their gold, I guess you could say, technically. There's no loss there. Whereas if you go to a coin shop and you buy, let's say a 1-ounce coin, and on your way out the door you say, oh, forgot I hadn't paid my mortgage, and they don't accept the gold, so I'm going to have to go back and swap it out. You would pay a buy-sell spread. So you're going into, and unfortunately, most gold dealers, or virtually everyone I've encountered, makes no distinction between legal tender coin and just bullion. And so there's this same or similar buy-sell spreads on all types of gold media. And so we make a very clear distinction between legal tender coin and on the one hand and bullion on the other, and we apply no buy-sell spread. There is, and hopefully we'll have a moment to get to this, there are some transaction fees that would apply, like when you swipe your credit card, that kind of thing, but they're relatively minimal in comparison to to the kind of buy-sell spread that you would see on a typical gold or silver transaction.
Right, right. And I think we will have time to go over that. Now, recently, you guys announced a Goldbacked debit card. Now, you'd mentioned you had an app, but a lot of folks don't use Bitcoin because they don't want to deal with it on their smartphone. They don't want to learn the system. But there's a lot of nervousness, especially this fall with the stock market chaos and with quantitative easing and talk of negative interest rates. People are looking for a safe place to store their wealth, or at least in a way that they can spend it that's convenient. What's this golden debit card, and what's your objective with that?
Yeah, so we've recently introduced that, and our members have received it, warmly. It's been something that I think has initially been popular, and I think will continue to grow in popularity. It just gives people easy access to their gold dollars, so they can essentially anywhere that a card type transaction could be done, online, point of sale, wherever, they can just pull out their card, swipe it, and then essentially there's a transaction in the back end that occurs between the UPMA and the member, where that is settled up immediately at the rate that's applicable on the date that the transaction was done, and then ultimately the bill for the card for all the membership, kind of their aggregate amount, is paid by the UPMA on at least a monthly basis.
Right, and that's through American Express?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, some folks, they say, well, this is a great program, and it's great that Utah has it, but, how can I get in? There's people in Ohio or Kentucky. Is this available to everyone in the country or outside the country?
We get that question all the time, and let me just be very clear. Absolutely, it is available to certainly any U.S. citizen, because now in terms of the implications for those that are outside the U.S., they can participate in it, but in terms of the legal tender character of the medium of exchange that they're using, that would could be different for them. But for any U.S. citizen, we're using U.S. legal tender gold dollars, silver dollars, and of course paper dollars. Many of our members deposit paper dollars, and then there's a conversion process where it goes into gold or silver. But this is all based on federal law that was put in place during the Reagan administration. You may, I imagine, a number of your readers and listeners would be familiar with the Gold Commission that was held just as Reagan was coming into office. And, they concluded that our then current monetary system was essentially unconstitutional. And they used the term anti-constitutional from top to bottom. And so there was some legislation that was adopted at that time reinstituting legal tender gold and silver coin, which we had in the U.S. For most of our history. There really only has been a 20-year period from 1965. That was Johnson's passing the Coinage Act of 1965 that replaced the Coinage Act of 1792. So we had the same monetary system from 1792 to 1965. And with that occurring, gold and silver coin was completely unavailable as legal tender to U.S. citizens. But that was restored in 1985. So you really only have that 20-year kind of mintage moratorium period where we didn't have a precious metal legal tender.
Right, and that period saw a lot of inflation, did it not?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. The effects were felt immediately.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Liberty Dollars or Bullion Direct. I think there's some concern about third-party risk. If I'm going to have you store my gold, I understand that, if I were to have 1,500 Federal Reserve notes or paper dollars, or over 50 gold dollars, I can actually order a $50 gold coin directly from the vaults. Is that right?
That's true. And people can withdraw their funds at any time. We run a 100% reserve system, so we always have all the gold or silver dollars that the members have deposited is in the vault, available for withdrawal. Having it in the vault, though, does offer some additional security that may not exist, if people were to just try to keep significant amounts at home. It's oftentimes you get insurance gaps. People don't understand that their normal homeowner's policy is not going to cover, a major theft of precious metals. So having it in a secure commercial vault, 100% insured through Lloyd's of London, I think offers some real advantages. Now, you did mention kind of counterparty risk, or in terms of what about the custodian? What if the custodian himself is running some kind of a Ponzi scheme or something like that? So what we've done to address that is UPMA is an association. So people that participate are members. They elect directors. The directors serve, not for any compensation on their own. And we have, a lot of, we have a good-sized board. And so the directors go in and periodically do physical hand count audits, compare it against the records of the association, and then report to the membership regarding their audits. We have, I think you mentioned, the Monetary Summit. That's put on by the UPMA. That's our major member meeting of the year. And so that's occurring October 17th up at the University of Utah Officers Club and the historic Fort Douglas area of the campus. And so as part of that, there will be an audit report that will be delivered by the elected directors to the membership, saying, hey, we've counted the gold and the silver, and it's there, and all the records match up and appear to be in good order. So that's the kind of thing that people don't even have with the Federal Reserve, right?
Right. When was the last time the Fort Knox was audited, right?
Exactly. So that's really important to us, to make sure that we have a system that people can have confidence in. And so I think that's a very important aspect for people to understand, is that we do have regular audits that are done by the elected representatives of the membership, and so they can have confidence in that. They can call up their directors and just say, hey, I've got a concern, could you please look into this? And they can, any director that wants to go in and look at the holdings, they have the absolute right to do that.
Okay. Now, let's say I had a Mountain or a credit union account and a few $1,000s in there, and I think most people, even the strongest advocates for sound money and gold, they see it as something they can't really spend. Now, if I were to open up a UPMA account online, could I reasonably use it as a checking account?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually have members that have totally converted their financial affairs to the gold standard. They have put themselves, when I say the gold standard, I mean gold and silver. Okay, so it's just to the precious metal standard. I'll just abbreviate that. That have determined that they're going to, use that exclusively in all their financial affairs. So we have that occurring right now. But the beauty of our system is people can adopt it to whatever level, they're comfortable with, or their particular circumstances dictate. So, you don't have to be a 100%, personal gold standard adherent to participate. People can participate on a very limited basis.
Right, of course. I mean, let's say I wanted to save silver dollars for my child. I could deposit $100 a month, and do it that way, and then maybe order the bullion or not the bullion, but the legal specie at some point in the future. Is that possible?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we have members of all different ages, and people are using their holdings for different purposes. We do encourage people to do at least some transaction um, out of their account to just essentially establish their intent that they're actually using these holdings as money. So that can be helpful under certain circumstances. But people are free to use it, their holdings however they want, and there is no age limit or there's no minimum deposit. We've had people actually open an account by handing us a quarter, not a silver quarter, just a regular quarter, and that's equal to approximately 1 gold cent. So, we credit their account. So we don't have any minimums or maximums or anything.
But I imagine you couldn't have less than 1 gold cent, could you?
No. We actually, 1 gold cent is as low as we go. So.
Okay, all right. Now, this does function more as a depository, so it's not a lending institution like a bank would be.
No.
So there are some fees associated with depositing. Now, if I were to deposit 500 paper dollars and maybe do a couple transactions a month, what kind of fees would I or could I expect from that?
Well, we have a monthly membership fee of 10 gold cents for members that have at least 1 gold dollar in their accounts, or the equivalent in silver. So if you're below that, there's no fees. But if you're above 1 gold dollar, it's 10 gold cents per month, and that includes vaulting and insurance of up to 200 gold dollars, or the equivalent in silver. And that includes also the handling of any special individual transaction that you may have, like, for example, if you wanted a bill paid to some third party that did not accept the gold dollars, that would be a special kind of escrow transaction, and so there is a fee for that, but one of those per month is included within the basic membership fee. And then beyond that, if you have holdings greater than 100 gold dollars, then it is the vaulting and insurance is 1 gold cent for every additional $50. So that's like 25 cents for that, just to kind of translate it back to paper, that most of your listeners are going to be more familiar with. It'd be about 25 cents a month for an ounce of gold.
Okay, now, and if I were to use the golden debit card, would those kind of have the same fees associated with it?
No, actually, every time you swipe the card, you are credited with gold cents as a reward for using the card. So you can actually eliminate all fees by just simply using the card.
Okay, well, that sounds attractive. Okay,
and we are, the board will be working on efforts to look at systems whereby we can eliminate fees. That is kind of in our charter, in our ultimate goal is to make this so that there are no fees. But there are some things that we would have to do. You talked about, we are a 100% reserve system, and the use of the transaction card does not change that. But we want to consider perhaps some other limited programs whereby we might be able to eliminate those fees, but it may mean that there would be a time deposit on a small fraction of people's holdings that essentially they would have to agree, well, if you want to eliminate your fees, then you have to agree that you can't get at, let's say, 2 or 3% of your holdings for, some specified period of time.
Right, which is similar to what
work.
banks will do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that is our ultimate goal, and I think that um, where things are coming into place that I think that perhaps by the end of 2016 we may well have achieved that goal. So that this will essentially be free accounts that you can just put your money in. There would be no charge for fees.
Right, and as of now, if you were to use the card and have less than the $50, it's already free. If someone wanted to try it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And my understanding is the Attorney General of Utah, Sean Reyes, backs this.
Yeah, actually, he was the keynote speaker at our UPMA monetary summit that we had last year, and he literally said, "Go gold, I've got your back," because under the law, he is the one that is actually tasked with protecting what Utah has declared to be legal tender. And so he totally gets this, and that's the beauty of having the precious metals vaulted in the state of Utah. You said, can anybody participate in this? Absolutely, wherever in the country, but there are definitely more friendly jurisdictions in terms of actual holding and where the back end transactions are taking place. And Utah is probably the most friendly. Maybe Texas now is going to be, at least that friendly as they bring online their depository. Oklahoma passed Utah-style legislation in 2014, so they're a great location as well. But as far as the vaulting, where the actual gold and silver coin is held, it's important to have it in a state that recognizes their constitutional responsibility to make nothing but gold or silver coin a tender for payment of debt. And Utah certainly has done that with their 2011 and then 2012 legislation that was passed, and that did specifically designate the Attorney General as kind of the guardian of the whole system, and so that's a real advantage.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, just to encourage people to exercise their constitutionally reserved rights to enjoy choice in currency. It's really one of those checks and balances that they don't teach you about in school, but both states and federal government play an important role in protecting and perpetuating a sound monetary system. And let me just point out that under the Reagan administration, when they started minting gold and silver coin again, they gave some really fabulous tools to the citizens at large to allow them to kind of reestablish a sound monetary system. For example, one law that dates from that time and is still on the books says that whenever the federal government sells gold to citizens or to anyone for that matter, they are to take the proceeds from that sale and they're supposed to retire a commensurate amount of the national debt, which represents the paper money system, because the paper money system is entirely built on debt. Full faith and credit of the United States is just a fancy word for debt of the United States. So, you can be part of the solution by actually embracing, gold and silver dollars and using them in your financial life. And I would encourage any of your members that have, or any of your readers that have an interest in this, to perhaps consider attending our upcoming summit on October 17th at the University of Utah. They can read about it under the events tab on our webpage, upma.org.
Right, and there's a contact page as well if they had any questions. It only took me about 2 minutes to make an account. You needed a zip code, a legal name, and an email, and I could deposit money into it and, start using it. And that was pretty fantastic how quickly that came together. Well, it looks like we've come right up on about half an hour here. I appreciate your time. Mr. Hilton, the founder of the United Precious Metals Association.
Thank you.